the Democrats alleged that Russia hacked into their server, they hired a private company called CrowdStrike, and CrowdStrike said it was Russia. They did it, right? But it turns out CrowdStrike was lying, as we've reported on here. They didn't know that. And also, turns out the Democrats are in bed financially with them. What are you talking about, Jimmy? Pelosi's take a big stake in CrowdStrike. Democrat-connected linchpin of Russia probe. Aaron Matei wrote this. This is in Real Clear Investigation. The cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike rose to global prominence in mid-June 2016 when it publicly accused Russia of hacking the Democratic National Committee and stealing its data. You guys remember that? It was the top comedy series of the year. You watched that, right? I watched it.
I couldn't get enough of it.
The Hillary Clinton campaign seized on CrowdStrike's claim by accusing Russia of meddling in the election to help Donald Trump. U.S. intelligence officials will soon also endorse CrowdStrike's allegation and pursue what amounted to a multi-year, all-consuming investigation of Russian interference. It was like the world's most boring writer's room making up excuses for why Hillary lost to a con artist. That's what it was. Recent financial disclosure filings show Nancy Pelosi and her husband have invested up to $1 million in CrowdStrike. Boy, this close to November, it's almost like they're betting in case there's another round of this stuff going to happen. DNC law firm Perkins Coie hired CrowdStrike to investigate the breach in late April 2016. At the outset, Perkins Coie attorney Michael Sussman personally informed CrowdStrike officials that Russia was suspected of breaching the server. By the time CrowdStrike went public with the Russian hacking allegations less than 2 months later, Perkins Coie had recently hired Fusion GPS, that's the opposition research firm that produced the discredited Steele dossier, alleging a long-standing conspiracy between Trump and Russia. So what this tells you is that a bullshit firm got another bullshit firm to help it bullshit about its bullshit. That's for everybody following at home. So bullshit Perkins Coie hired bullshit Fusion GPS to help them push their bullshit that this bullshit organization was already bullshitting us about. I'm connecting the dots for you like Rachel Maddow does. But guess what? Here's where it gets super interesting-y. Sean Henry, behind closed doors, the CrowdStrike president admitted under oath in December 2017 that his firm, CrowdStrike, did not have concrete evidence that Russian hackers actually stole any emails or any other data from the DNC servers. I'll say that again. They didn't have any evidence. They had no evidence. Concrete? Take concrete out. We did not have evidence. They had no, this was completely made up. Like I said when I was still working at the Young Turks, to everybody who would listen to me at the Young Turks, which were two people, Malcolm and Steve-O. Those were the only people who would listen to me. Everyone else at the Young Turks were listening to this motherfucker who was lying, and they didn't even know he had already admitted they didn't have any evidence. None. Did they go back and report that this guy admitted they didn't have any evidence? I don't know. That's what a responsible news organization would do. They would actually debunk this bullshit story instead of pushing it. I was able to debunk it in real time on Aggressive Progressives. I was able to do that inside the Young Turk studio. In real time, I was debunking this. I guess nobody at the Young Turks watched my show. They watched it enough to not talk to me anymore.
Yeah.
They watched it enough to not talk to me anymore and turn their back on me when I walked in the newsroom. But they didn't watch it enough to actually debunk this fucking bullshit, evidence-free conspiracy theory that the entire left pushed at the top of their lungs can still, to this day. And by the way, this whole thing went out to have a less underwhelming ending than the Game of Thrones. I'm saying, well, I'm sorry, more underwhelming. Less whelming. I'm not whelmed. No one's ever whelmed. People get overwhelmed, but no one's ever, how are you? I'm whelmed. Not overwhelmed? No, I'm whelmed. Just the right amount of whelming. So, did you ever hear that? Has this been reported on any of your other favorite YouTube shows? It certainly hasn't been reported by CNN and MSNBC. Has it been reported by your other favorite YouTube shows? If it hasn't, maybe you should ask them why. Maybe ask them why. The firm's multiple conflicts of interest in the Russia investigation coincide with a series of embarrassing disclosures that call into question its technical reliability. The first multiple conflicts of interest in the Russia investigation coincide with a series of embarrassing disclosures that call into question its technical reliability. So this is Aaron Matei, friend of the show, being diplomatic. I don't know why he's doing that, but I'm going to translate this for you. Okay, so what this really says is these guys are a bunch of fucking scam artists. That's what this says. Can I read it to you again? The firm's multiple conflicts of interest in the Russia investigation coincide with a series of embarrassing disclosures that call into question its technical reliability. Translation, these guys are a bunch of scam artists. In early 2017, CrowdStrike was forced to retract its allegation that Russia had hacked Ukrainian military equipment with the same malware that the firm claimed to have discovered inside the DNC server. I'll read that to you again. In early 2017, CrowdStrike was also lying in the same exact way about a Russian hack into the Ukrainian military. They were lying about them in the exact same way. For some reason, they were made to retract that one. They had to retract that one. So swing and a miss for CrowdStrike, not once, but twice. 2 strikes, 0 and 2 count. Sean Henry's acknowledgement to the House Intelligence Committee that CrowdStrike did not have evidence of exfiltration. That's a word they like throwing around. It came only after he was interrupted and prodded by his attorneys to correct an initial answer. By the way, there's Adam Schiff, the guy who's done and said nothing about his own home state of California being on fire, but would walk across dead bodies to get in front of a camera to flip his gums about whatever the CIA talking point is hot this week. That is Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff said, this is what he said, do you know the date in which the Russians exfiltrated the data from the DNC? Sean Henry, the president of CrowdStrike, says, I do. I have to think about it. So do you know the exact date? Do you know the date in which the Russians hacked into the DNC server? The president of CrowdStrike says, I do. I have to just think about it. I don't know. I mean, it's in our report that I think the committee has. I mean, maybe. I mean, green's my favorite color, and I enjoy pasta. Dogs make good pets. What was the question? I don't know. I don't know. Gee, I don't know. That's how a liar answers that question. That's called someone lying. Schiff, and to the best of your recollection, when would that have been? The president of CrowdStrike says, Council just reminded me that as it relates to the DNC, we have indicators that data was exfiltrated. We do not have concrete evidence that data was exfiltrated from the DNC, but we have indicators that it was exfiltrated. If I say exfiltrated 5 more times, will you think I'm actually saying anything? You will? Exfiltrated. So no, we don't have any data. We have no evidence, none. And that's why I can't recollect the day that it was, because there wasn't a day. It never, ever happened. And this is a big scam that's going to be repeated by lefty news shows for 4 years straight and never retracted, ever. Having generated the seminal Russians hacking allegation, CrowdStrike sits at the top of what has become a booming cottage industry of firms and organizations to help shape the multi-year barrage of Russian fear-mongering and innuendo. So what that says is they built an entire industry around bullshit. There's an entire industry now built up around this bullshit. They might as well start a church, and then they won't even need to pay taxes on it. Just call themselves the Church of Exfiltration. And with her investments in CrowdStrike, Nancy Pelosi, the highest-ranking elected official of a party that has promoted Russiagate above all else, is already profiting from its success. Who's being naive, Kay? Who's being naive? Now, I'm going to say this. That Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes know this, and they on purpose lie to you. And they push Russiagate when they know it's bogus. Because what are they going to do? Walk away from their life? Start telling you the truth about the Democrats and the fucking establishment? Is that what they're going to do? That's not happening. So they know. And anybody else still pushing Russiagate, they know this, and they're lying to you on purpose because they A, lack integrity, and B, lack integrity, and C, lack real courage. Anybody who pushed Russiagate lacks actual courage. I didn't go to fucking Ivy League school. I didn't go to law. I didn't do shit. Except I was somehow born with the internal fortitude it takes to look into a camera and tell you people who's actually lying and who's not. That's too hard of a job for Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes and anybody else with an MSNBC contract or wants one. They're unable to do this, which is why the country's in the situation we're in. Why don't you ask those shows why they don't report this? Why don't you ask those shows why they don't report on the 4th OPCW whistleblower? Why don't you ask those people why they don't have Aaron Matei on their shows to talk about Syria? Why don't you ask those people? I'll tell you why. Because they're fucking career climbing, integrity challenged cowards. By the way, Nancy Pelosi, I don't think Democrats want a new direction. No, they want you to keep investing in Russiagate, making money off an evidence-free conspiracy theory that covers for the Democrats' horribleness after they lost to a game show host. Nancy Pelosi is a 100 millionaire. She didn't enter Congress as a 100 millionaire. She is now. Guess what Harry Truman said about those people? You can't get rich in politics unless you're a crook. Nancy Pelosi is a crook. She's a war criminal, she's a crook, and she's your enemy. Who's being naive? Okay. Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.